call.
Miss Lamy,
Here.
Mr. Green, Mrs. Hanson,
She's here.
Mrs. Rutherford, Mrs. Fauntleroy, Mr. Harrell, Mrs. Martin, Mrs. Moore,
Here.
Dr. Peterson,
He's here.
Mrs. Baker,
She's here.
Mrs. McCullum, Ms. Hurstis, Mr. Bro, Mr. Kuzan, Mrs. Rufino Gallagher. Gotcha.
Okay, we're going to dispense with the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. We did that in our first meeting. Does anyone want to recognize any visitors? Okay, seeing none. Moving on, approval of minutes for the committee as a whole meeting held May 11th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Ms. Moore, a second. Mr. Bro, do we have any comments from the public? I'm getting good at this. Do we have any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, let's please vote. I'm starting to pay attention to this stuff. Okay. Okay. He may have run to the restroom. No, Mr. He was talking. That passes 13 yeas and 1 not present. Okay, moving on to Human Resources update with Mr. Alfonso.
Thank you, Ms. Lamy, Board, Superintendent Jabbia. Last month at CAW, I brought to you the introduction of the Temporary Authority to Teach, the TAT program that we talked about. Some key questions that I posed was, you guys asked, what is a TAT? A Temporary Authority to Teach are individuals, that's certificates that are given to individuals that are seeking certification through the traditional methods or enrolled in alternative certification program like our Teach St. Tammany program. Another key question would be, how will these individuals be paid? As you see, it's an agenda item. We'll introduce that in the next agenda item. While doing this, we did investigate other districts. Through my investigation, we did come up with that we were the only district in a surrounding area that was not doing the TAT program. A TAT technically is not a certified person, but it's just giving a person time to work on certification. So in St. Tammany, we always had 100% certified people. So a TAT would be someone who's not certified. So I just want to be clear on that, but they are working on certification. These individuals will be bachelor degree people and temporary employees. At the end of each year, the position that they are in will be then put at transfer fair, job fair per the CBA and be available to all of our employees. The importance of this program is twofold through our investigation. One is to help our Teach St. Tammany program, to roll people into that, and to also alleviate our sub issue. Currently, I'd just like to give you a number. Throughout the year, we do something which is called accelerated pay. When a person's in some 10 consecutive days, they start receiving degree and experience. Over the course of this past school year, we had 204 people receive accelerated pay. Now, the number does seem alarming, but it could be someone that took a maternity leave. It could be someone sitting in a vacancy. It could be someone who's on medical leave for 3 weeks. So it's a variety of things that could have happened. We did have 204 long-term subs this school year. So we're hoping that if you guys approve this, that it will help with that situation also. And those people who served in long-term capacity can go back to being a regular sub. To assist Teach St. Tammany program, these candidates will just simply have to pass the Praxis 2, and will also allow individuals to pursue other alternative certifications program like iTeach, Resource Louisiana, or the traditional route like at Southeastern, and go through their certification program. I mentioned that the substitute issue, we ended the school year with about a 78. Belinda Pennison ran that for me today. and we had a 78% fill rate in May, which is great, and we hope that will assist that also. Things that we have done so far in anticipation of you guys approving this is we created, my staff, we created an online application tailored to people interested in a TAT certification. And the application is very specific to them with drop downs on subject matter and also them checking off that they understand what a TAT is. We also created a pay scale, which is the next agenda item. We'll get into that then. And I think most importantly, you know, those educators and everyone on the board will understand this. We created a framework for these individuals to be mentored by an experienced faculty member who will be compensated under our salary scale, and Ms. Prevost and I have worked on that. Also, we have met with the HR staff and Meredith Mendez and her staff on once this is approved, how we're going to roll this out. Please keep in mind that we have over 100 individuals who applied for Teach St. Tammany, who had a bachelor's degree, who did not get in Teach St. Tammany. But we're all proud to say that 31 people are in Teach St. Tammany this year and did attend job fair, which is up 11 people from last year, 10, 11 people from last year. Also, Ms. Gardner, I'd like to thank her. She did some things because she understands that our sweet population is hard to fill. It's hard to fill those positions. So she has 168 people that have bachelor's degrees that did not attend job fair, that may not have some type of certification, that we're going to work with her to reach out to these people. So you're talking roughly about 250 people that we're ready to reach out to fill these spots. So that's particularly what I'd like to introduce you with the TAT program. I'll answer questions in a second, but I just want to give you some data from job fair. We did have 380 people attend job fair. Right now, we accepted recommendations. Recommendations were due May 31st, which was yesterday by noon. All principals did a great job getting those in. George Bodie and myself have worked on calling multiple offers today. Multiple offers just simply mean that a person's recommended for 5 jobs, so they get to choose. So we're working to narrow it down. We have single offers, and we should hopefully we'll probably be into Monday, honestly, making these job offers, but we hope to be through the multiples by tomorrow. So with all that being said, I'm here to answer any questions for you.
Okay, Ms. Rufino Gallagher.
All right, I have a couple questions now. So what is TTDS, TTES, TTFS, and TTGS stand for?
Where are you?
I'm on that salary schedule you have?
That's the salary schedule. It's just the codes in the salary schedule, the pay levels. That's just what's coded in Munis, how those people are paid. TTDS is a certified person with a bachelor's degree, and just from
Okay,
TTDS and over, masters, that's all certified people. So the first one, and non-certified, which I'll address next agenda item, is the TAT people who are not certified.
Okay, so they have 3 years to be in this TAT program before they get completely certified? Is that the goal?
That's a good question. So we only have 3 levels here because technically a person's only supposed to be on a TAT for 3 years. They have certain criteria they need to meet. So if we have someone who's on a TAT, I'm going to give a couple examples. We have someone that's on a TAT that does nothing, we're probably not going to return that person. But by state, if a person takes the praxis twice and fails it twice, they can go on a TAT the following year and give them time to work. So we'd move them to the next step.
Okay, so they technically have 3 years to get all their as long as they're making some sort of progress.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Of the 380 that attended job fair, how many did you offer jobs to?
We're not finished that yet, but
Or like
I
got
could have that
chosen for a job? I didn't know. Like some people might have been like, hey, that girl's not going anywhere.
Well,
She
I
can stay
don't
where she
have.
is or whatever. I don't know.
We're not to the point where we have that data yet.
Or
but
boy.
But
Or
I can
boy.
tell you this. I can say this in regards to job fair. You know, our tracking process, 98% of our jobs had a recommendation for it.
Okay.
That are available.
Yeah.
Now, it could be multiples, but we had a recommendation, which is
Okay.
good.
Okay. I think that's all I got.
Ms. Hanson.
I just wanted to clarify with TAT. So somebody gets into TAT and they have to be working towards education certification, whether it's through Teach St. Tammany or another means.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
if they don't, within that first year, if they don't do anything, they're just teaching because they have a bachelor's degree, then they will not be in the second year?
Correct. That's the purpose of the program, and that's a good question. I didn't want to dive too deep into that. So we have to treat these people kind of like our retirees in the critical shortage area. At the end of every year, we have to discontinue them and re-advertise the position. So at the end of the school year, no matter if they're working towards it or not, they're going to be discontinued. Now, those ones who are not working toward will not be welcomed back, and we'll just roll with the other ones into it. They may be at another school, but they're going to be in the same subject matter.
I'm going to take a little pause here and just ask you to talk about item B, because I think a lot of our questions are going into that, unless you had anything else to add. Y'all can still stay in this order, but I think a lot of them have to do with TAT. Mr. Bro, Dr. Peterson, are yours about TAT? No, okay. Mr. Bro, is yours about TAT? Okay, well then let's keep going then. I know he was going to present something on that first, and so I was going to give him the opportunity to present before we asked more TAT. Okay, Mr. Bro.
Okay, so you mentioned that 100 people were not able to get into Teach St. Tammany last year. This year.
Yes, sir.
So you had numerous applicants, and then you had 160, a possibility of 160 SWE teachers. So that's 260. Now, as I understand it, they teach for 1 year's TAT, or maybe up to 3 years, but they have to be working towards a certification. And I thought we were going to try to open up the Teach St. Tammany, but if we're doing 31 a year and we have 260 in waiting, that's going to take quite a long time to.
Yes, sir. All those people, that's just a target audience for us to reach out to them. Not that all those people are going to be grabbed and pulled in, but because the application, as I said earlier, the application is going to be very, very specific to what our needs are. There's going to be a drop-down menu to our needs. Basically, the drop-down menu is our critical shortage areas which are prescribed in that flyer we put out, which we're paying incentives for. So they have to choose one of those, and that is the area they're going to go in, and that is the area they're going to work on.
Mr. Alfonso, you need to be clear that there is no cap on the number of people that we let in Teach St. Tammany.
No, sir.
The only way they can get in is to have a bachelor's degree and pass Praxis 2. Then they have the opportunity, they will be welcomed in.
Yes,
So there is no limit. We're not saying that only 35 people can get in, only 40. We'll take 100 if they'll be there.
So-
The problem is Praxis 2 is
Yes.
the holdup. The majority of the ones Steve's referring to, the 100, did not get in because they could not pass Praxis 2, and they had to have that in order to go to job fair.
Okay,
sir.
so the limiting factor wasn't the size of Teach St. Tammany. The
No,
limiting
sir.
factor was the qualifications of the people who applied.
Correct. And one component of that is when they passed the Praxis 2 through Teach St. Tammany, they issued what's called a practitioner's license, and it's dedicated to, say, science. You got your practitioner's license signed. You have to teach science. So once you finish Teach St. Tammany program or another alternative certification program, you move to a level 1 certificate. So you move from practitioner to level 1. The practitioner just simply means that you're receiving the mentoring, the professional development, the coursework through the alternative certification, which moves you to level 1, kind of what it puts you on your own.
Okay, how much additional pay will be given to the mentor teachers? I know we've talked about this in the past.
Right.
What
Right.
is it, a $500 stipend?
Right now, Ms. Prevost and I are discussing 1,000.
1,000.
And
Okay.
that will be in the salary schedule.
A semester.
Yeah. It's in the salary schedule already, technically.
So with the 380 that attended job fair and 98% of the jobs had a recommendation, or how we stand, how many unfilled jobs do you anticipate we'll have? I mean, we were at 90 most of this year. You know, we're talking about 2% of, only 2% of the unfilled jobs right now that
so-
may be open.
No, it's not. So a person could be recommended, I'm just saying a person can be recommended by 5 schools. So it could be 5 different spots. But I'm projecting to have the same, technically around the same amount of vacancies when it's all said and done.
So you're thinking we're still going to have roughly 90?
Yes,
And-
sir.
But
And-
we might be able to fill them with the DAT.
Yes, sir. And also, please keep in mind that these vacancies that we're discussing, you know, a person that's at school A and can go to job fair, get a job, which then opens up their job. So it's a cycle that.
Okay,
you know,
right, it
so
leaves a
this-
vacancy
this-
somewhere else.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the way the long-term substitution works is you have to have 11 days straight, and then basically your temporary job pay doubles.
Correct.
So and then if you take a day off because you're sick or something, then you have to start the 11 days over again? Is that how it works?
That is our rule, but under these circumstances, we've been working with the principals. Under unique circumstances, the principal sends me or George Bodie an email, and then we'll go through an approval process to waive that and keep the accelerated pay going. We had a
Okay.
process for that. Yep, they do not have benefits,
Right,
that's correct.
right. And you said we had roughly 200 people that met the long-term. May not have been for the whole year, it may have been for 3 weeks or something to that effect.
Yes,
But
sir, 204, yes, sir.
So, the cost of a long-term, basically maybe $180 for a long-term sub that has a degree, how does that compare with a TAT professional with a
It's-
degree?
It's in the same ballpark roughly.
Roughly the same?
Yeah.
Okay. But with the TAT, you're there for the whole year and you're gaining experience
And then
and
you-
working towards your certification
And the key is in receiving benefits.
and receiving benefits.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Dr. Peterson?
You have multiple offers, folks. If you have in that multiple offer pool for that applicant, is there any discussion about where that person is most needed in that pool? Or is it just the individual decides, and even if we have a greater need a little further over, the other side of the community instead of this side of the community, we don't have any influence there?
We can't, per the CBA, sir, we can't do that. We have the job fair, the process, we put the vacancies out and we offer them the job and they get to choose.
But you're responsible for doing the best thing for the kids in the school system, but you don't have that level, that ability?
No, sir.
I guess that kind of answered that question. No, I'm learning.
Now, if y'all want to vote on that and give me that ability, I'm in.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, if we have and just to extend that question a little bit, for my own gratification, I guess, it's just, so if we have gifted teachers and we have gifted populations, there's been discussion about that, and we have teacher shortages in those areas with those skill levels, and we have a place that has a larger population that can be served better with one teacher than a smaller population, although it may be a sacrifice in the meantime, but we don't get to make that decision either. We got, it's
No, sir, you're correct. What we're doing now with that type of situation, we busing those kids to a teacher, to that location to receive services.
okay, so we're doing all that we can.
Absolutely.
But we don't have flexibility to move teachers to needed target areas.
No, sir,
Okay.
that's the involuntary transfer process, which is specified in the CBA when we
There's
start
just
moving,
something
when we
not
start
right
moving
about that.
people.
I don't know, it just doesn't feel right, but okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
If I can just chime in, I agree with what you're saying. I wish we could, but at the same time, with the shortage of teachers, I also wouldn't want to offer a teacher something that they say, no, I'll go to a different parish because I don't want that position, and then we lose them completely. Okay, Ms. Hanson?
I'm sorry, just a quick clarification, just in case somebody's watching this and they're looking. When you talk about the pull-down menu, so for example, someone has their master's in history. If there's not a shortage of teachers or is not a demand for social studies teachers, that's not a person that's going to necessarily fill a TAP position.
Yeah,
But
they
if-
can go to another subject matter and take the praxis in another subject
In
matter.
another subject matter.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
in other words, it's not going to be open up to all core content areas. It's, it's only the critical needs areas.
No, it's, the critical need is in the application, but an example with you, a
I
history
see.
person, if we have someone who goes on a TAT in history, they're welcome to go to another certification program and get that certification, and we'll work with them.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make, or just clarify, is that it's only going to be for critical needs areas.
That's our target, but we're open to accepting all. That's our target for those areas. But if there's a history position and a principal recommends someone in a history position, and we are able to put them on a TAT, we just can't offer it through Teach St. Tammany.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Okay, and agenda item B under number 3. Oh, Mr. Bro, you just popped up there. You weren't there a minute ago.
Yeah, I hate to do this. I hate to do a second round, but I forgot one question. There is a competing program that's at the state level that allows anyone with a degree, regardless of the teaching. Let's say you got a chemistry degree and you want to teach. We're still following that as well, right? That's a state law?
Yes, sir.
So they can come in and teach in their subject area, maybe science, any science.
Yes, sir.
So that's an addition, that's a separate program, and they would get full pay, or?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Okay, B under number 3 is the consideration to add bachelor's degree pay scale to the 2023-2024 salary schedule for the issuance of temporary authority to teach certificates, AKA TAT. That's what Mr. Alfonso just referred to, and it's an attachment on our agenda. Do you want to say anything about that, Mr. Alfonso?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Lamey. So the Superintendent Jabbia emailed this to you. It's also was put in executive content. If you look at that pay scale, if you just look at the bachelor's degree, which Ms. Gallagher mentioned, that is for certified people. So if you take the top pay, the entry pay on the bachelor's degree scale, which is $48,983, Ms. Prevost polled other parishes who have this program, and if you look at the entry level of the non-certified, which is bachelor's degree people who will be on a TAT, that is roughly 81% of the entry-level certified person, which Ms. Prevost investigated, and that's how we came up with that figure. Now, you see, we only have 3 levels there because that's what the state specifies that someone can be on a TAT certificate. Now, I can answer any questions relative, to a little bit about the pay, but Ms. Prevost is here to answer any questions also.
Okay, we need a motion first. Ms. Hanson, and seconded by Ms. Baker. I was going to say Gia. Okay. Do we have any comments from the public? Stephanie's thinking about it.
Say thanks.
Of this because we're getting more people. I am personally an alternative certified teacher, so I don't like when people knock us. But anyway, so I am excited about having that. The only concerns that I have are like OFATs by state law. If we have a certificated person that applies for a job, they're supposed to get it before and like OFAT or a TAT person. So I just wanted to see if that's the same with TAT and that kind of stuff. So.
Ms. Chubb?
We're not circumventing anything that we do with this program. Like I said, these people are going to be temporary employees. Also, the superintendent and I, since we have, vacancies in all job classes, we have people that's a permanent employee that may have a bachelor's degree that may want to investigate this. We decided that this year, till we get this up and moving, we're not going to allow that. But, per the CBA, a permanent employee can't go to temporary unless they resign. So we're not going to investigate all that. So we're not trying to circumvent anything. We're going to follow the same transfer fair and job fair rules. At the end of the year, these people who are on these certificates will be discontinued. And then once we go through the transfer fair and job fair process, if there's positions available, then we'll start letting people go back. If there's a math person that was on a TAT year 1, is a math vacancy, you can go to that spot.
Okay, I do have a question. This might be sticky, but it's based on something else. So if, let's say, if I have a history certified teacher, but they don't apply for that position, right, at job fair, so I give it to somebody on a TAT, then the following year, we're starting over, it's advertised again. Now this history teacher does, but now I've got a report at this school, this teacher's done great, they're working on their TAT. Is there anything that says we have to hire the certified teacher, or is it still based on principal selection of?
Well, it's
who they
principal
think-
selection, but they will have to hire a certified person first.
First, okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. Okay, next up, Ms. Rufino Gallagher.
Only because Ms. Underwood just said, what is an OFAT?
Out of field authority to teach. So you get, say you're certified in math, but you teach in science. So
Okay.
then it gives you time, kind of like a TAT, it gives you 3 years to fulfill the requirements for science. But they also,
But they are a
it's
certi-
recognized as a certification by the state.
Okay, and then the non-certified teachers on this TAT, they do get benefits, but a long-term sub is who does not, correct? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Bro.
Okay, you mentioned we did a study in with surrounding parishes, and we found out that most of the other parishes had far more TATs already than we did. And then you compared, or Ms. Prevost compared their salaries. So are some more, some less, or, you said we're be comparable at 80%?
Right. They were all about between 75 to 80%. So I just went with the 80 because that's what Jefferson was using. So
Okay,
I
so
figured we're more comparable to them.
So your number was based on the evaluation of surrounding parishes?
Yeah.
Thank
The
you.
only difference, Jefferson doesn't change the amount. They pay them the same amount and they have 10 years on there. So I don't know how they get away with that, but they do.
So they don't get any pay raise?
No.
If they work for 10 years to
Until
try
they
to get
become certified,
certified?
and I guess they move over a column at that point.
Okay. Oh, wow. Just kidding. Let's vote. Yeah, really, exactly. Okay. We're going to miss him. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, C, review and consider recommendation of insurance for property, primary, and excess liability crime, boiler and machinery, employee dishonesty, NFIP flood, cyber liability, and workers' compensation insurance. Mr. Alfonso.
Thank you, Ms. Lamy, Superintendent Jabby, and Board. At this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Brian Davis, our risk manager, who will present the insurance proposal recommendation and answer questions. Also in attendance, Mr. Butler Bourgeois is here from Arthur J. Gallagher.
Good evening, Chairman Lamy, Superintendent Jabby, and board members. We submit to you tonight the recommendation of our insurance committee for the insurance coverages previously stated. You do have two documents in your file. One is a historical 6-year spreadsheet. I know Mr. Bro always likes to see that, and I found out Ms. Hurstius likes spreadsheets tonight, too. That's 2 check marks to start with. Requests for proposals were sent out for this coverage, and we followed school board policy. We ultimately received 2 proposals, one from Arthur J. Gallagher and another from Insurance Design and Placement, that elected to bid only on cyber liability coverage. Arthur J. Gallagher had the lowest bids across all lines of coverage. We did receive numerous quotes across all lines of coverage from various underwriters or carriers, though. Our recommendation for general liability, auto liability, educators' legal liability, and employment practices comes out to $573,000 premium annually, representing a 4% reduction, equating to a $22,000 savings, while increasing our general liability coverage from $1 million to $2 million for each occurrence, and increasing our self-insured retention from $250,000 to $500,000. For property insurance, the South Louisiana market continues to be extremely volatile, with expected increases projected by industry experts to be up to 50% this year, with one recent Louisiana school system increase coming in at 70%. Our recommendation for property insurance is $2.260 million, representing a 38% increase and equating to $623,007 annually. Our recommendation for cyber liability, which also continues to be a volatile area, is $82,340 premium annually, representing a 61% decrease in premium, with a savings of $127,563 annually. Mr. Bouillon provided significant assistance in working closely with us to provide both information to underwriters and participate on conference calls with underwriters to help them better understand our system and practices that help protect the school system from this type of risk. I will say that the underwriters received quite an education from Mr. Bouillon. Our recommendation for the crime policy is $4,440, which represents a $19 increase over the prior year. We're going to have to consult Ms. Prevost about that. Our recommendation for boiler and machinery coverage is $31,500, representing a 5% increase of $1,378 annually. Our NFIP flood policy through FEMA is $277,171, representing an 18% increase of $41,927, and is set by FEMA. We have no control over that bid process. Our workers' compensation recommendation is $260,412 annually and represents a 14% decrease of almost $41,000, even with an increase in annual payroll. Over all coverage lines, we have a total increase of 16%, representing a $475,769 increase in annual premium, which is the third lowest increase over the past 5 years in an extraordinarily difficult insurance marketplace. If you haven't seen the news or watched anything from the state legislature, please do so, because it will tell you. And if you haven't watched your own homeowners' premiums go up, please do so. I'd like to add that we also are awaiting proposals from a number of underwriters who have not yet submitted, and we are requesting approval from the board to accept lower proposals prior to the renewal date for the same level of coverage if they become available. Essentially, the above recommendations would be the worst-case scenario. In closing, I'd like to thank the other members of the Insurance Committee, comprised of Mr. Alfonso, Ms. Carrasco, Mr. Harrison, and Ms. Prevost, for all of their efforts and commitment to this initiative, and to Mr. Bouillon for his assistance as well. In addition, I'd like to ask Mr. Butler-Bourgeois of Arthur J. Gallagher to provide a few comments and further information to the board regarding the proposal, and we'll both be available for comments after he finishes.
Thank you, Superintendent and board members. I'm Butler Bourgeois with Arthur J. Gallagher. We wanted to make a few comments after meeting with the Insurance Committee on the insurance program that we presented. Two things. Your team focus on workers' compensations this year in particular caught the attention of several of our excess workers' compensation carriers. We arrange calls between those underwriters for excess workers' compensation and your risk management department just to understand the processes that you've undertaken this year. And they were really impressed with several things that took place. Let me just read through those if you don't mind. Your focus on closing open claims, over 60% at this point. Being proactive, managing open claims is good for everyone, especially employees. This was huge to those carriers. The vast majority of your workers' compensation claims will fall below your deductible, but having a focused approach and enhancement of the return to work program resonated with insurance carriers. All carriers, one of their main concerns or one of their main points is always a return to work program is essential and critical for better results. And you're having those outcomes. Managing outcomes of open claims with consistency will prove beneficial in the long run, was one of their comments. Identifying the why claims are happening and proactively curbing incidents from happening is another thing that resonated with carriers. Every safety expert will tell you frequency breeds severity. So money spent on claims prevention will always be the least expensive way to manage your workers' compensation claims. They were very impressed with the work that you've done, hence a 14% reduction. Actually, a reduction from all three carriers that provided bids. They provided multiple options, but you ultimately ended up with a 14% decrease. So congratulations. The other comment that I would like to make, in meeting with the Insurance Committee, I just wanted to highlight an element of coverage with the educator's legal liability. This line of coverage has always been a part of your package. It does provide coverage for decisions made by and wrongful acts committed by insureds. Insureds, the definition of insured are current and past board members, employees, teachers, volunteers, and more. It's a very broad definition. But that policy has always been within your program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here and for the information. Okay, do we have any comments from the public or questions? Oh, motion first, so sorry. Do I have a motion to accept? Ms. Fauntleroy? And a second by Ms. Hurstis? Because you and Matt raised your hand at the same time, I couldn't pick between the two of you, so I just looked this way.
I promise you I'm not trying to make the meeting longer. But I do want to say, Mr. Davis and I have talked on numerous occasions, and I do see the changes he is making, and I do appreciate working with him. And obviously, with the comments that were made, that was very exciting to hear. So I look forward to continuing to be pleased with how that works. So thanks.
I will comment, Mr. Davis, you do a phenomenal job, and we're very grateful for you and your thoroughness. We are thankful for that. Okay, Mr. Bro.
Thank you.
Let me get my spreadsheet out. I know it's coming.
No. This is great. This is great. I mean, we can't control the property name storm. I mean, every homeowner is facing that. And that went up 623,000 just for that. And if you take that one out and then the flood insurance, basically you're telling us our insurance went way down.
Yes, sir, I am. I'm sorry.
And that's
my
almost
apologies.
unheard of.
Yeah.
And you know, three of the categories were actually down, and one was a draw. You know, $19 increase over annual. So I think this is fantastic. You know, nobody likes to see a 16% rise, but it's the world we live in. And you know, we're going to get name storms more and more, and it's affecting everybody. So I think this is a great job, and thank you for the work you did on this.
Thank you, President Bro. I was deeply concerned before we started this process because the numbers that were being bantered about and what you see in all the trade journals and publications and talking with our carriers and agents and brokers, you know, and hearing that another school system in the state suffered a 70% increase, and knowing that the averages were going to be around 50%, when we came out at a 38% increase in property, I was almost relieved. I hate to say that I'm relieved at a 38% increase, but considering what I thought it could have been, it was a bit of relief. Not that I think we should be pleased ever with a 38% increase, but I think there's just some things that are beyond our control, unfortunately, and this is one of them, and I don't know when this ends. It's just a terrible situation we have in this area.
We need no hurricanes for a decade.
I would agree with that.
Okay, Ms. Baker, you're up.
Well, Margaret Orr said we're in El Nino, and so we're not going to have as many named storms this year, just saying. But anyway, thank you for this information. Two questions. Well, the first thought is, Mr. Bouillon, I remember last year reading the cyber liability, and you called it, you said it was going to go down, and I like to just say, when you're right, you're right. So, because it was a new thing last year, and I remember you saying that it's new, and we definitely need it, because my concern was, why don't we just self-insure that? But clearly, it's becoming more reasonable, so thank you for all the information that you give. Secondly, Ms. Prevost, so 16%, I don't think that's very huge, but in terms of the budget, you anticipated what percent?
I anticipated to go up a lot more than that from the districts I've been talking to that want our information to figure out how we did this.
Okay, so we have the
They're
money.
like double ours. So, yeah, I'll be sharing this after you approve this.
There you go. Well,
Only
we're
if they
gonna
give you the
approve-
bus driver information.
Yeah.
Only if they give you the bus driver information can we share this.
Ms.
That we need.
Ms. Baker,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Ms. Baker, I hope I wasn't negligent and didn't say this, but that cyber liability went down 61%. But I don't know that I mentioned that we tripled our coverage. We went
Wow.
from 1 million to 3 million and still received a 61% decrease.
Even with all those universities getting hacked this year. That's amazing.
I had to explain to them everything about our system. That's really what it was. They were like, okay, they're good.
No, right.
Okay, Ms. Moore, you're up.
I am. So Arthur Gallagher is the insurance company that we are going with.
They're our broker, an agent. There's underwriting companies, and Butler can certainly address all of the, not one insurance company, our carrier covers us. There's a whole multitude of
That
carriers,
we
and he
go
can
through
speak to
them.
that.
Yeah,
They arrange and coordinate it all as our agent and broker.
great,
And
okay.
then we've got a lot of underlying.
Because you mentioned we might go with other companies, but, we want to make sure they're all at the same caliber and the same,
We take nothing less than A- is our minimum on AM Best rating, an
That was
A-. So
really
these
my
are
question.
all extremely financially strong companies. Butler, would you want to say a couple of things about some of the underwriters that are in our portfolio?
Sure thing. Actually, Gallagher, we go to multiple carriers for your insurance program. Gallagher has a standard of A-6. But we also have a committee that reviews carrier financials. Matter of fact, they're not on your program, but there was a company that was downgraded or had some financial issues, and our Chicago office issued a note to get off of, you remove this carrier and replace this carrier. So they're constantly watching, because you're right, it's critical in this environment. Ma'am?
Are you local?
Oh, I'm in Baton Rouge. Yep.
Okay, remind me your first name again, I'm sorry.
Oh, Butler?
Butler, Miss.
Butler Bourgeois.
Okay. I couldn't go back further. I was like, was it Boudreaux or Bourgeois? I don't want to say the wrong name. Okay. I want to thank you first for even being here again and giving us the information. But I think what she wanted to make sure is that you will still be our go-to person. And you will
Yes.
be. And
Yes.
that's what you wanted to know, right? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Fauntleroy.
First, just a commendation, just thank you so much. I think you have more than paid your salary since you've been here in savings, so thank you. And then my other question you brought up, I'd already buzzed in, about the educator legal liability. I worked here 27 years and never knew, you said that we've had that coverage all along, educator legal liability coverage?
Yes, ma'am.
And so that covers every employee, every educator, and that's liability coverage for any,
So it'd be for either wrongful acts or decisions that you might make.
Okay.
So if the board makes a decision that someone in the public doesn't like and decides to sue, then you provided a
but it's for
defense.
teachers as well. and-
Absolutely.
and- Okay,
All employees.
all employees,
Right.
okay. And how much coverage, is there a limit on that? What's the,
It's a 1
1
million
million.
per occurrence with a $2 million aggregate, which is the most it'll pay in any 1 year.
okay. All right,
That's awesome. Thank you. It's $1 million per incident, but $2 million is the most they'll put out in a year. So that would be two people, or
Yeah,
one
right.
person up to $2 million.
Well, yeah, and it's been adequate for majority of our school boards. We insure over 50% of the student population in the state, and the majority carry $1 million limit.
And Mr. Harrison may want to make a comment on the limitations there statutorily as well.
No, we're good. No.
We have some protections from the state
We're
as
good,
well.
we trust y'all. I mean, we just wanted to know. Thank you. Mr. Harris was like, well, I can do that. Mr. Harrell.
Thank you, Ms. Lamy. I was gonna ask a question about the crime policy, but since Ms. Fauntleroy brought it up, how does that compare what we're providing already for teachers versus what they're getting from like the union? I know they have a teacher policy. Ms. Underwood, I don't know if you want to speak on it, or Mr. Bourgeois, how does that?
I don't know that we're familiar with it. I don't know if Mr. Harrison is familiar with it. I'm not familiar with it, so.
So very briefly, first of all, defending and indemnifying teachers is covered under state law. So you've got multiple state law sections requiring school boards to defend and indemnify teachers. Probably the most often cited is 17:439. There's also 17:416.4. And basically what you're doing is you're obligated to defend and indemnify teachers for all their acts, all the employees, while in the course and scope of employment. And the only time you have exceptions to that are if you have a rare situation where a teacher is willful, malicious, or intentional in harming children. It's extremely rare. Because of that, the policies the board has carried for many years cover those acts. So once those acts are covered, there's a statutory cap on damages generally of $500,000. That's part of what Mr. Davis uses the self-insured retention. It was at $250,000. It may get bumped up to $500,000, giving this board control of its litigation. Now, to answer your specific question, how it compares to the union's policy, it's this simple. The union's insurance does not kick in until all statutory caps are exhausted and until any excess policy is exhausted. It doesn't defend it either. So in other words, you have to have a case that has never happened ever, where either the statutory caps are exceeded or the total limits of coverage of the excess policy are covered, 1 million or 2 million in the aggregate, before the union policy would kick in and defend and indemnify. And I had to find that out because of a case we have pending. It's public record, and it was something I had to dive very deep into in a particular case where, after almost 20 years, a teacher who was a union member got brought in, and the issue was how was the union going to assist in defending and indemnifying. And so I had to get really into the weeds on that policy, and sorry I made your meeting longer, but I tried to answer your question.
The only reason I said no is because I saw your expression and I thought you were being put on the spot, so I was trying to have you back.
No, it's all good. I appreciate it. The insurance issues are secondary to sometimes coverage issues, exclusions, and the interplay between coverages. So again, the union policy kicks in at the end of all statutory caps and insurance policy caps. It's my best understanding of it.
So I know there is another policy available, Apple or Pell or something that teachers can get. So that's kind of pointless to get that too if we're covering them here. The Apple, I don't know, if a teacher that knows this answer. So homeowners and a rider? Okay, please. Am I crazy? Isn't there an Apple policy or is it Apple Care I'm thinking about on my phone?
Yeah, so there is an Apple or Apple, I don't know what they call themselves. That's more of a PD, like it's different. So I don't know that it's never happened because we've had people that we've had to use legal coverage for. So our policy covers up to $2 million in liability insurance. Y'all's policy, your lawyers cover that you make sure the school system's out of trouble first and then defend the teachers and employees. But we've had people that we've had to dip into liability insurance for, so I don't know why you're saying it's never happened. But yeah, so we're just here for our members. They have up to $2 million, so it's great that the school system has it. We have up to $2 million, so they can dip into both, I guess, is how it is. But I did want to say that we have helped people, we still help people, and we also have legal protection for things that aren't
In the court.
necessarily, yeah.
So if they had to go to court, would a union provide an attorney to
Yes.
like defend you?
If they're a member, yes.
If they're a member?
Well, can I
Okay.
be a member? I thought y'all covered all teachers.
We cover all employees with a contract, But with the liability insurance, you have to be a member in order to get that,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
because it costs us money.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you have anything else, Mr. Harrell?
The crime policy, is that just when
Thank you,
something
Ms.
happens on
Underwood.
campus? Thank you, Ms. Underwood. What does the crime policy cover? Is that when something happens on campus? or-
It's very specific. Ms. Prevost is probably the expert in the crime policy if she wants to comment on it.
I mean, we have a clause, because we have a policy, I think, Ms. Fauntleroy discovered it, that we have to have a, indemnity bond, I think it is by law, on the board president and on the superintendent, and that's part of that. And, I think it's just a basic policy for employee crime.
You want to talk?
He might
Butler can
answer
give
more
some
than
more
I
insight.
I am.
In essence, it'll cover just employee theft is a good way to look at it, whether it be through loss of inventory or actual cash theft. But most school boards do carry some limit on that. And you do have a few positions within the school system that are state required to have bonds. And so this policy incorporates those requirements into the program.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's vote. Right. Is that what you do? Okay, good. Just making sure I already voted. Yep, it's there. He's reading it. Okay, it passes unanimously, 14 yeas. Thank you so much for your time and for the information and your hard work to get us there. And Mr. Bouillon, for your knowledge and wisdom upon everyone. Okay. Risk management. Mr. Alfonso.
Thanks again, Ms. Lamy. The monthly risk management report is on board docs. Mr. Davis is here to answer any questions.
Oops, Ms. Alleman is going to present the summer learning programs. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Chair Lamy, Superintendent Javia, board members and guests. I'll be providing an update for summer learning programs. In order to prepare for the beginning of another exciting summer learning experience for our kindergarten through 6th grade students, principals and site coordinators will arrive at their assigned campuses on the morning of Monday, June 5th, to prepare their schools for the arrival of teachers and students. Also on that day, K-6 teachers will attend a professional learning day to review summer school expectations and requirements and prepare their classrooms for the students' arrival on June 6th. During the summer learning program, students will be immersed in all core content areas as well as PE, music, and art. Presentations and learning activities have also been planned for each of the 9 sites. Students at all 9 sites will learn about agriculture, animal life cycles, and be able to experience live farm animals through our district high school ag teachers. North Shore Technical Community College will have students test out their mobile Megatronics STEM lab, and students will be able to view band and cheer performances from our area high schools. The K-6 summer learning program will operate at 9 host sites across the parish. This slide outlines not only the 9 summer program locations, but also the name of the administrator serving as summer site principal and individual schools which will be serviced at each location. I would like to additionally point out that our Students with Exceptionalities Department will also be utilizing 2 of these sites, Mayfield Elementary and Lancaster Elementary, for their extended school year services, which will be further outlined later in this presentation. In grades 7 through 12, students will work on their core subject deficiencies through virtual credit recovery courses. Students in grades 7 through 8 will be taking a maximum of 1 credit recovery course. These courses are self-paced and can be completed anytime, anywhere between June 5th and June 30th. Students in grades 9 through 12 will be taking a maximum of 2 half-credit recovery courses, and these courses are also self-paced and can also be completed anytime, anywhere between June 5th and July 14th. Professional development will be provided to teachers in grades 7 through 12 to review the expectations and requirements of the virtual experience. During those professional learning days, teachers will set up their virtual classrooms, Google Meeting rooms, enroll students into their course, and email all students a welcome message that introduces their teacher, their office hours, their Google Meeting link, and instructions on how to log into their course. Before the start of classes on June 5th, teachers will also make phone calls home to introduce themselves to the child's parent or guardian and share all of the information that the child received will be shared with the parents. In grades K-6, we received 392 combined certified and non-certified employee applications. We have hired 226 staff, both certified and non-certified, to operate our 9 school sites and to service 1,881 students enrolled in our summer learning programs. Of the 1,881 students, 653 students were enrolled for literacy support that requires an additional 30 hours of literacy instruction as a result of Bulletin 1566. In grades 7 through 12, we received 217 certified employee applications, and we have hired 194 teachers to service the 1,809 students enrolled in our summer virtual learning programs. As previously mentioned, our Students with Exceptionalities Department will host their extended school year services for qualifying students at 2 sites in the parish. Once again, these sites are Mayfield and Lancaster Elementary. Each of these sites will have a site coordinator who is a member of the SWE staff. As always, for our Students with Exceptionalities, participation in this program will be determined through IEP. The student's IEP team will decide the number of days, length of instruction, and types of services provided in accordance with the student's needs. The Extended School Year Services Program received 172 combined certified and non-certified employee applications for grades pre-K through 12. In total, the Extended School Year Program hired 102 certified and non-certified employees to service qualifying students. In total, 309 students qualified for extended school year services. There are 176 from the west side of the district who will be attending Lancaster Elementary and will be receiving approximately 950 hours of support each week, which includes special education instruction, speech services, and other related services. At Mayfield Elementary, there are a total of 133 students receiving approximately 856 hours of special education instruction, speech services, and other related services each week. And that concludes my presentation.
Excellent, thank you so much. Do we have any questions from board members? Oh, we do. Ms. Rufino Gallagher.
I'd have a couple of them. So for only because they've been asking me, for high school, there's only one session, it's the entire summer, basically?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You said a junior high kid can take one full credit and a high schooler can take 2 half credits. What consists of a credit? What consists of a half a credit course of what they can take? Like, how does that work? What do you mean? Like, is English 1 credit? Then what's a half a credit? Can they take a half of English, half of math? Like, how does that work?
In junior high, their courses are based on an entire year.
Okay.
I mean, if you go to math for 8th grade, they don't ever change teachers. It's typically the same teacher for the entire year. Well, in high school, it's
Correct.
based on half credits. So each semester would be a half credit.
So if they only failed a semester.
They would just take
They would
that.
just take the semester that they failed.
Correct.
And then, but if they failed the whole year, they'd have to take math, both of them, and they couldn't take anything else.
Correct.
If a student, obviously I asked these questions, so if a student failed English and chose to not go to summer school, they would then take English 1 and 2 in their sophomore year? How
Not
does that work?
necessarily. They have room in their schedule to pick it up at some other point. They could also take it during the year as a credit recovery. They don't have to take it during the summer.
Okay, and then, so the elementary schools, you named all this, like PMU, so basically it's like a school day, they have pullouts and different stuff, it's not just education, it's not just classroom education the whole time, is that what you meant by
For
when
the
there's-
K through 6?
Yeah.
Yes.
For like livestock and all that, which is
Correct.
kind of cool. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hurstis.
I'm probably going to ask the same questions that I've asked already, but I'm going to ask them again. During summer school, they have students that fail, and I know that there are multiple reasons why they fail.
Correct.
Okay. Some reasons are because they have maybe discipline problems and they fail because they're failing students, okay? Because they're just bad students. To me, this seems not very disciplined enough for summer school. I mean, they're taking it virtually. They can take it whenever they want. How is this like disciplining them and making them accountable?
I mean, we don't design.
I know, I've had this question
Right.
before, and I've got the same answer.
I
You know,
understand. I mean, we don't design summer school programs to be punitive. I mean, basically, it's to remediate any of the deficiencies that they have, regardless of how they got there.
Excellent answer. Ms. Hurstis, I know where you're coming from with this, but I'm just going to say, going to school during the summer is a logical consequence for the action of failing, no matter the reason. However, teachers have to teach them and be with them all day. So we want to make sure that they're learning what they need to learn and rewarding them for what they're doing in summer school instead of punishing them for what they didn't do in regular school. But if you would like to volunteer, I know some of the principals, and we can.
if we have teachers that can watch kids pet livestock, I'm
That's
sure
only
we
dur-
can
that's
find
only during their
teachers.
recess.
We had teachers during summer school when I was in summer school.
Okay.
I'm sure we can find teachers now.
To do ISS. If they get in trouble at school, they get to pet the livestock. But if they do the right thing, then during their break time, they get to go out there.
This is where the problem is. We need to find
We gotta fix
ways
society.
to make students accountable when they do something wrong. Period. I'm out.
Peace out, Mama. All right, Ms. Baker, you're up.
Just real quick, is this
ma'am.
part of, this was all free? So this is part of
Yes,
ESSER
ma'am.
funds?
Yes, ma'am.
So and they had to be not necessarily failing, but just have a deficit in a particular subject, correct?
Which grade level?
The younger ones.
The younger ones, they had to meet pupil progression where they passed both math, English, well, it depends on the grade, but typically it's math, English, science, or social studies.
Okay. And is this the last summer for this? In
One
terms
more.
of ESSER?
One more.
One more, okay, thanks.
Yes, sure, of course.
How many kindergartners are gonna be going to this in the summertime? It says K through. I'm like, how many, you know,
I know. How many kindergartners?
yeah, do you really send kindergartners to summer school? For remediation?
All right, so for kindergartners, it's approximately 120 students.
Wow.
But for kindergarten, they're not going for credit recovery or remediation. Our kindergarten program is simply designed for additional learning opportunities. The kids get to engage in math, science, social studies, and ELA, as well as go to art, music, and PE, and pet livestock. So it is not meant to decide promotion or retention. It's just additional learning for our
It's a
kindergartnens.
gift.
Yes,
It's an
correct.
opportunity.
Yes,
It's-
sir, that's
It's a
correct.
gift. Thank you.
Ms. Baker? Ms. Rufino Gallagher?
So for the K through 6, I'm not gonna be the one y'all like here. So basically, they get free childcare. If their kid is not failing, they're just gonna send them to a summer camp that gets additional learning.
Not entirely true, because the program is not open to every single student in our district.
Okay,
kindergarten
that's
through
what I
sixth
need to know, like,
grade.
who's it open
So-
to?
So it was open to students who needed credit recovery first.
Okay.
Then additional, obviously, we had to open up for those students who required literacy support through Bulletin 1566. And then based off the staffing availability that we had to staff our locations, we then offered schools additional spots per grade level that they could offer to students who they felt needed additional support. So it wasn't just a blanketly open, anybody can enroll. The only schools that had it open where anybody can enroll, and this is per state guidelines, are those schools that are urgent intervention, that have those urgent intervention required labels. We did have to offer that to all people on that campus, and anybody could register for the program at that point.
Okay, question 2. So obviously on this side of town, in Slidell, Cypress Cove, Honey Island, all my schools, they're all separated. K through 1, 2 and 3, 4, 5, and 6. They're all gonna be going to school together. So
Yes.
are they in certain parts of the school, like 6th graders aren't mixing with kindergartners, or how's that gonna work?
Well, yeah, I mean, we definitely are going to utilize whatever classrooms that the principals of the school, because Honey Island is the site that those
Correct,
students will
yes.
attend.
I mean, I
And,
know there's 3 hallways, so I'm saying
Yeah,
like,
Ms. Troyer got with us
Yes.
and let us know which availability for rooms that she had. She does have some separated spaces within the campus. But yeah, we're not going to be mingling our kindergartners with our 6th graders by any means.
okay. And the only thing I will say is I'm going to agree with Ms. Hurstis in the fact that you can do it online and you have 6 weeks to do a half a credit of what you did in that you missed in high school, it's not a consequence. I know everybody says it's hard. I'm not saying it's not, but if you don't understand it and you use the teacher for the reasons, but there are kids who are, I mean, they're
I
going to be
understand
on
what you're
family
saying
vacation.
now.
And so just hold on a second, but just for the fact of like mimicking and being all funny about it, it's true. There is no consequence. And if you're a screw up and you affect the entire class that you're in and you're just the cut up, but you show up every day, so you have your seat time, and then you have to do summer school, there is no really consequence because you can go to Disney World all summer and 2 hours a night, do your stuff and be done with it. That's
So-
what we're saying, and
So
nobody
when
has to
Ms.
agree.
Hurst, of course we don't, and you can relax, breathe. Ms. Hurst, when you spoke, I thought that you were talking about the K through 6 well, you said something about like not a punishment, like I thought you said something about livestock. You were talking about virtual school. Okay, so I apologize because I thought you were talking about the regular summer school, and I'm an elementary-minded person, and that was my response. So now I've got another one for the virtual thing. Moms and dads are responsible for giving their children consequences. And so if your child has to make up recovery time, it is not our job to punish your child for being a clown at school. It is mom and dad, grandma, Aunt B, whoever else is involved. That's their job to punish that kid. And if my boys come home and have to do that, then they're going to have a consequence for me. That's just my 2 cents, but I get what you're saying. Okay, Ms. Hanson, you still have something? Ms. Hanson.
Yes, I just want to make a comment about the K-6 learning that is taking place. that is part of ESSER funds, which is part of that COVID recovery, so that we can help kids that may have fallen behind to get on track, to be at benchmark or above.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's not necessarily going to be something that we offer free every year, and it's not even technically our district money. I mean, it is our district money, but it's from the federal government that came to help our kids get caught up, because these are the kids under COVID when they were first, second graders, kindergarten, whatever.
Yes. The ESSER funds are covering all of our summer school programs.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Superintendent Jadia?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, and I understand the frustration with the high school model, and I just want to remind you, they're only recovering one credit. So a child that you're referring to, maybe that is very disrespectful, very disciplined, has many discipline issues, probably failed more credits than that. They can only get one, and they are retained in that grade. So they're not going to be considered a sophomore the next year, or a junior or a senior. They're going to have to do credit recovery during their entire high school career to recover those credits. So they might get an opportunity to earn one credit, but they need 24 to graduate. So there's a lot more that goes into it. So we're not giving them their whole, let's say freshman year or that. So there's a whole lot. But I understand the frustration, and I do. And we all get frustrated as teachers with those students that have been habitual problems in our classes. But we have to try to get them, our job is to try to progress those students so that we give them an opportunity to right their ways and hopefully get across stage and graduate. That's our hopes.
Just a question on something you just said. So if they fail, let's say they fail math, but they choose to not do it in summer school because they're like, I'm not gonna be able to do it if I don't have a teacher in front of me, whatever. Are they still considered, we'll use freshmen, are they still considered sophomore, or when do they not be, when are they not considered the next grade level? How many courses do they fail?
It's
all
based on
determined by
credits.
credit. So 5 credits, you have to pass 5 to move to be a sophomore, 11, 17, so on.
And so math is 1 credit?
It depends
If
on
you
what they
took both
failed.
semesters.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
if they fail the whole credit, right.
Okay, so they have to fail 5 classes to not advance, but they would still advance to be a sophomore if they only failed math, let's say.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Mr. Kuzan?
I'd just like to say one thing, and I think this will benefit a lot of people. I look over what we're going through in the meetings. And if I see something that I don't understand, I will call Mr. Kosei, who is making that presentation, and say, Mr. Kosei, can you explain this to me so that I can be ready when I get to the meeting? Because this is, some of the things we're going back and forth with is taking a lot of time that a lot of these board members already know. So I'd like to just offer this suggestion to the board members. Go through the agenda at home and then call, this is why we have these supervisors and people here. Call them and ask these questions to them so that when you get to the board meeting, you can be prepared so that we don't have to stay here till 11 and 12 o'clock every board meeting. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to early literacy update. Ms. DiCarlo.
All right, the C&I department's going to continue with 2 updates with the early literacy training, as well as we're going to go over the end of the year K-3 DIBELS results. So with Act 108, Act 108 provided and requires early literacy training for all of our K-3 administrators and teachers of reading, math, science, and social studies. The district itself is also required to report to Louisiana Department of Education the number of administrators and teachers who have successfully completed the professional development course by April 1st. And I say that because that's an important date when we have to send numbers. And I'll tell you why it's so important in just a minute. What our teachers and administrators do experience, we have a course that we use is provided by AIM Institute for Learning and Research. The course does include online coursework, and the teachers and administrators do attend 6 virtual community of practice meetings. Our participants are eligible to earn a successful coursework completion of up to $990 and up to $108 for attendance during the virtual community of practices. So our timeline looks like this, and we began in year 1 with a cohort in December. We had 2 cohorts of 60 participants, and that did consist of administrators, coaches, interventionists, and district staff. So we started with the district people doing the modeling, learning first. And the number of 60, that will be the number that has been reported to LDOE at this time. It will be recorded in School Finder. We also started 10 cohorts of 300 participants consisting of third grade teachers, administrators, coaches, interventionists, and district staff. That began in May of 2022, and that just ended in May of 2023. So I definitely want to congratulate all of those people, the administrators, the coaches, the interventionists, the third grade teachers. It is a lot of work, and they have completed it. We had 93% of a completion rate, and so we will find out exactly kind of where that stands along with other districts. We're not finished, though, with training in any which way. We just opened 630 new participants in this May. They received their email for them to complete it. And that's our kindergarten through our second grade teachers, and then as well as administrators, coaches, and interventionists. Their training will conclude in May of 2024. In December, we're going to open an additional of 5 new cohorts, and we're adding, this is not covered in the law, but we're adding speech-language pathologists. We're also adding our school building level committee members, and of course, picking up any of our K-3 teachers that may come in after we started. So we have a lot of training that is going to be occurring, and this is something that the district will need to continue to do. Our universities are going to be offering this course within graduate work, so eventually the burden of training so many teachers will not be on the district because they will be coming into us with the certification from the university. But it's going to take a little while for them to catch up. I do want to thank Wendy Stein, who's our ELA PD coordinator. She helps me coordinate this massive amount of teachers and administrators and making sure that they have their note-catching books, because we provide all of our teachers with the stuff to take their notes in with the links in order to be on this, their stipend timesheets to get paid. So I want to shout out to Wendy because she helps keep us very organized. So upon completion of the course, our participants are able to draw upon their knowledge in the science of reading in order to increase our students' literacy scores. So Mr. Hurstius is this time is going to come and share our DIBELS data.
Thank you. Every kindergarten to third grade student is administered the dynamic indicators of basic literacy skills, or DIBELS, 3 times a year in order to identify students who may be at risk for experiencing difficulties or who may require enrichment. The results enable teachers to provide timely and effective support and to provide parents with suggested at-home activities. This chart compares the percentage of students across the district scoring in each performance level on the literacy screener from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. The students' growth in every grade this school year is simply amazing. A shout out to the kindergarten teachers for increasing a special shout out should be given to the kindergarten teachers for increasing the above benchmark students by 20%, the at benchmark students by 19%, while decreasing below benchmark students by 8% and decreasing the well below benchmark students by a staggering 31%. Yeah. We attribute these positive results to the hard work of the kindergarten through third grade teachers and the utilization of high-quality instructional materials like CKLA and Hegarty. The district continues to demonstrate positive results as we compare multiple years of scores dating back to pre-COVID. The red column combines well below with benchmark student percentages, and the green column combines benchmark and above benchmark student percentages for the end-of-year results. In kindergarten and first grade, the percentages of below benchmark students are decreasing, and the percent of at and above benchmark students are increasing. These figures are exactly what you would want to see. The percentages for second and third grade students remain relatively consistent. Despite the learning gaps that have been created, we applaud the second and third grade teachers for continuously working to increase student achievement. We anticipate to see an increase in scores as more teachers complete the science of reading training, and implementation of CKLA and Hegarty will be in its second year. In closing, additional literacy training and high-quality instructional materials paired with dedicated, hardworking teachers yields support for every child, every day for a successful tomorrow. This concludes our presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, both of you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Hanson?
Just one quick thing, I'm looking at those above benchmark and at benchmark for third and second grade, and just a reminder that those were the kindergarten and first graders during the COVID years. So that, to me, speaks volumes that they were able to raise that, so thank you for sharing that.
I agree with that. It's also when we brought phonics back to the classroom, and I would like to shout out that because that was huge. That's a huge impact also. Anybody else? Okay. We don't have to do anything else? What's next? 3-minute comments. Ms. Sharp, come on down, sunshine.
First comment is, why is Lancaster considered anything central for summer school for special needs kids? Once again, it's necessary to point out the problems in transportation. There really is no end. The history of the new tracking system is being repeated as installation of the harnesses has resumed and the tablets are being installed. There were and continue to be problems with the harnesses when it's installed as intended on certain model buses. So bus owners are having issues with error codes and other electronic equipment not working after the install by the company. The school system is messing with the driver-owned buses without consideration of the damages to the bus. Yes, replace the radio when they've ruined it, or whatever. How about finding out what caused the problem? Also, we are now being told that the training to use the equipment will happen this summer. This is not in service. We are not on payroll, and we are not required to attend Packet Day where we will get trained, come up with a better solution. As you and the school administration move forward with the new and whatever is happening in transportation department, please remember the intimidation, bullying, and other forms of harassment are covered under the contract. Since we now have a union that is watching out for the employees of all classes, it's imperative that you look at the contract for violations of the laws. The administration was able to manipulate and sway the union in the past to include some questionable items, but hopefully these will be corrected in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Okay, next up, we have, that's it? Announcements. President announcements. Mr. Bro.
I thought I had plenty of time. Okay, We, for the board members, please remember to submit your superintendent review evaluations prior to 10 o'clock Monday. Earlier would be better because Christy needs as much time to put these things together. At the June meeting, next Thursday, June 8th, will be followed by a special meeting, an executive session for the superintendent's yearly review. Offices will be closed on Friday, June 9th. And I suppose on every Friday, right? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes. Okay, meeting adjourns. Drive safely.